Hey, TOB fans, Julian here. Quick update. So this should have dropped probably a week before you're hearing this now, but I came down with what is probably COVID, but I don't really know for sure. It was certainly a pretty bad flu that knocked me out for a while. So I did not have the energy to post this and do this little extra work that is needed. So a little bit of some details for you. Normally, we do the Tobies as one large thing, the movies and the shows of the year. This year, I think we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're just going to do the shows first, so television shows first, and then I'll drop the movies section on next week, basically. So stay tuned for that. The whole thing altogether is close to 3 hours, so I think you're going to get lots to listen to between the two of them. And we included a special guest. I'm not going to spoil the surprise, which you're going to hear in just a moment, but I am excited to have more special guests on the show this year. So, again, the door is open. The invite is out there for longtime friends of the show, or people you think that we might be that would fit well or vibe well with us. Happy to include them. And to do some more special episodes. So that's in theme with the 2024 stuff that I've talked about before, but just wanted to mention it here as well. But before we get into it, again, another big thank you to our Patreon subscribers at Tower Babblecast on Patreon. And you guys have really helped us set up a really nice kind of, maybe I'm getting a little sentimental here because of my sick brain or something, but a nice foundation for the show that I don't have to worry that we're not going to be able to afford it, and we can cover our bills, and that's a really nice feeling. And so to reward that, we do a unique or special film club that is exclusive to. I guess it's not that unique. Film club concepts aren't that unique, but it is exclusive to the patrons, and this month coming up for the month of, not this month coming up because it is already February, but for the month of February, we're going to be doing Denis Villeneuve's Dune. For those who haven't seen it, this is a great chance to dive in. For those who have, this is a great chance to rewatch it in time for Dune 2 in March 1st. So without any further ado, please enjoy our top television shows for the year 2023. Which, again, I know is a little late. Should have been a little bit sooner, which was still even a little bit late. But here it is, and enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 7th annual Tobie Awards for the year 2023. As always, I am Julian Meush. I am joined by Jeremy Kozier.
Hello.
And special guest, friend of the show, Vince Hosein. How are you?
Hello, hi, I'm doing great and
Excellent.
super stoked to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you, Vince. I mean, here's the story for those who might have been expecting Rachel, because that's who we had last year. The story is Rachel has had a kid last year, and because of that, has been really. She told me, she said, I've watched 3 movies this year, and one of them on repeat. It turns out to be a kid's movie that the baby's been watching on repeat. So, she didn't really have much to add. So she did encourage us to go out and find someone to fill her spot. And so and by the way, this is in in accordance with our new policy for the year 2024, which is that we are trying to expand our footprint a little bit, reach out to those who have either been on the show before or maybe who have never been on the show, and get them back into the fold. It's been a little bit too long. Vince, when's the last time you were on the show? It's been a while, right?
It was a very long time ago. I remember being at Jeremy's place, and I think we did. I think we either did a normal show, or it might have been another Tobie show. Actually,
I think there was an
like
Oscars
Tobie's 1 or
preview
something.
you were on. I feel like that's possible. I vaguely recall being in the Cayman Islands and recording an episode outside, which I had done a couple times there on the public Wi-Fi at this in this really nice part of town, but relatively quiet. So I remember recording episodes out there, and I recall you being on one of those episodes, and it might have been an Oscars preview show. and might be even one of our better ones if I'm remembering correctly. But you're right, it has been too long, so that's on me, Vince. So I apologize. It's good to have you back. So,
Yeah.
what is the format for today? The format is we are going to talk about recap, look back at the year 2023. And today is technically February 1st, so we're a little behind schedule, I guess, as it were. But that's really kind of par for the course these days at the Tower of Babel podcast. So we're going to again look back at year 2023. We're going to provide our top 3 favorite films and television shows, as well as some honorable mentions, some disappointments that we might have had, and talk about some of the trends that we might have noticed from the last year in the entertainment space, not just regular stuff. The world is falling apart. 2023 was the hottest year on record by um, a wide margin. There's lots of things to worry about, but we're not really going to worry about that right now, and we're just going to ignore all of the bad stuff and just talk about the things that we like, which are movies and TV, which is what we focus on here at the Tower of Babel podcast. So that is the plan. Before we get into the ceremonies, and of course, this is a very prestigious ceremony that happens again. This is the 7th annual, which is really crazy to think about how we've been doing this long. But before we get into that, just a little bit of housekeeping to do. So Twitter and Facebook at Tower Babblecast on Twitter and Facebook. That is where you can find us. In fact, I actually also recently got an invite to Blue Sky, so I'm going to be trying to develop a presence over there. I don't know how that's going to go. We'll see. But I can tell you this: it does remind me of old Twitter, and it's a much more enjoyable experience over there. A lot less crazies. So and I do call it still Twitter because what else am I going to call it? Really, X? Come on, that's silly. So that also the film club. We do a monthly film club every month. We actually just recorded yesterday. Jeremy and I did. We recorded an episode on the Iron Claw. Jeremy, would you say that we like that movie? How would you categorize our reaction or our takeaway from that film?
I think we like that movie. I think we really like that movie.
Yeah.
There was just some of it. The conversation was kind of tied to the Oscars a little bit, so it may have sounded a little
Yeah, no
negative
noms.
just to justify that, I guess. But who knows?
Yeah, I guess it's funny because the nominations just came up for the Oscars, and that's the other thing you have to look forward to, which is our Oscars preview show, which I always get excited about. And unfortunately, this year that means there's 7 Best Picture movies that I have not yet seen, and I am not the most
Yeah,
excited about this year's slate of movies to watch. I think last year I had seen 4 of the 10 already, and for whatever reason, 6 feels much more approachable than 7. I don't know why that would be, but um, the other movies seemed interesting. There was a lot of cool movies from last year. Triangle of Sadness, for instance, was really awesome, fun ride, among others. But this year, gotta say, the Best Picture nominations feels like a little bit like the Oscar nominations from 10 years ago, where you would have never heard of a single one of them, and it's just, I'm in tough. It's gonna be a slog. I feel like we'll see. They're supposed to be the best movies of the year, but often they can be quite boring. So we'll get into that eventually. Anyway, you can find our Iron Claw review as part of the film club that we do monthly at our patreon.com/Tower Babblecast. It's really cheap. It's $5 a month. You get access to that, plus a little bit of extra bonus content. I included some bonus content in this Iron Claw review as we talk a little bit more about the Oscars in the kind of post-show content there. So you can find that. That's exclusive to Patreon at patreon.com/Tower Babblecast. Okay, so that is the all the housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into the fun stuff here. So this is the best of the year 2023. And we are going to talk about, again, our favorite films and television. Originally we started with our top. I think we tried to do top 10, but that was too many. We're not professional movie critics, therefore we don't have the time to see and think about 10. I could probably do 10 movies, to be honest, but by the back half of that list, you're going to get into some movies that probably don't belong on a top 10 list. So we pared it down to 5. and that was okay for a little while. But even then, that still felt like we were stretching it at times when we were into some of the drier years. So we said, you know what? Everyone does a top 10 or everyone does a top 5. Let's just do a top 3. Really focus on the best of the best. So that is really what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about the best of the best. Plus, we'll talk about some honorable mentions because it's hard to really only talk about 3 things. You got to add a few bonus pieces in there. We'll talk about anything that might have been a big disappointment. We're not saying it's the worst thing we saw. Certainly, we're not doing our worst or, our version of the Razzies, whatever that would be. We're not doing that. We're doing something that disappointed us. We might have had a bit excited about and just didn't reach those heights. So that's also on the table for those who are interested. We'll start with television, then work our way through movies. And again, we'll weave in some conversation about some of the trends. And I have a list of about 6 or 7 trends that I noticed from this year that I feel like will tie in well with the conversation. So, are you guys excited about this, or should we get into it, or what?
Oh yeah, super ready.
Okay.
No comment.
God damn, Jeremy, come on. We're trying to get excited. These are the Tobies. You got to get excited. We went one time. We did wear a suit for this. So, as you can see, we are recording this live on Twitch.
I don't think I wore a suit.
You don't think so? I think you did.
No.
I think you maybe a tie, a jacket, maybe perhaps a shirt.
A jacket.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I think that's fair. You're right. Either way, we dressed up at one point. And COVID really ruined the whole. I haven't gotten dressed up really since COVID, to be honest. Not really. I went to one wedding, and that's probably the only time since COVID that's happened. So it's kind of destroyed my ability to even think about putting a suit on. And besides, I mean, the new setup we have here at the new Tower Studios doesn't really work for a stand-up event. So we'll just stick with the usual casual wear for this one. But again, prestigious. You got to remember that. Okay, so let's start with television. We will start with our third favorite, or we'll work backwards from 3 to 1. We'll mention some honorable mentions after we get through that list. If, for instance, your 3, Vince, is my 2 or Jeremy's 1, depending on how he wants to think about it, we'll just talk about that at that time. We're not going to wait to dive into a conversation on a certain thing. It doesn't make sense. So, with that being said, all the rules and the structure out of the way, Vince, why don't you kick us off? Your number 3 television show from the year 2023.
Yeah, it was Only Murders in the Building season 3. It was just one of those shows where I got super excited to come home after, I think it was every Tuesday, and
it was a weird
sit
day
on the couch.
Yeah,
and just have a glass of wine, watch a mystery show, and I felt like it did a good enough job tricking me. I'm pretty easy to trick, to make me not know who it was going to be for the entire season.
Yeah, they do a good job. I think, first of all, great pick, Vince, because I think Only Murders in the Building is a top tier show. In fact, I think they're coming back for a 4th season, even though they said they were only going to do 3. So, and Steve Martin has said that this is probably his last acting job. He's going to retire after this. And so the longer that they keep it going and the longer that they have Steve Martin working, the better. To be honest, he looks great for his age. And it feels like he could probably keep doing comedy for probably forever. But, and personally, Steve Martin and Martin Short as obviously a long-time pairing, but Steve Martin specifically really hits my funny bone. And I don't feel like I recognized that for a really long time, but then when Only Murders came around, it just felt like he was so effortlessly hilarious all the time in that show, especially. And I've since gone back and watched things like Father of the Bride, and other things that he's been in, and he's genuinely hilarious in those. And he was a little typecast for a while, always playing the dad of something, but because he's had white hair for forever. But I just love the show. You're right in the sense that it keeps you guessing, but it's it's not really about the mystery. Really, it's more about the characters. Obviously Steve Martin, Martin Short, and what's her name?
Selena
Gomez.
Mabel.
Yeah. Selena Gomez, first of all, I never really thought of her as an actress before, really. even though she has been doing that for a long time. It never really came across my my screen. And then here she just really, again, she plays the straight man, and she does such a good job of that, especially bouncing off of the wackiness of Steve Martin and Martin Short. That I think it totally works. They really struck gold with the show. The fact that it still feels novel in season 3 when the premise is a murder inside of apartment complex, and then there's now been 3 murders in and or adjacent to the building, which does feel a little contrived, but it doesn't matter again because it's really just more about hanging out with these people, and that's what makes it. I struggled with putting that on my list. It's in my honorable mentions. Season 3. It's really top tier stuff. Anything else you want to mention about Only Murders? Again, it's a great selection. So great selection.
Yeah, I think you hit it with the cast just working off each other so well, and it was really a star-studded season this year too, with who they brought in, and it was it was really good. Really enjoyed it.
Great. Okay, so that's Ted sorry, that's my pick for spoilers. My pick for number 3, Ted Lasso season 3. So we'll just jump into that then, and Jeremy, then we'll go to you. Ted Lasso season 3 is the finale for Ted Lasso. There may be a spinoff coming. If there is a sequel, it's certainly not in the works or been announced or anything like that. It wraps up and if you've been following kind of the R stuff for the last couple of years, you'll know that Ted Lasso has been in and or around my favorites every year that it's been around. The Ted Lasso season 1 was my favorite season of television when it premiered, I think in 2019 or 2020. I don't remember exactly. I think I want to say 2019.
2020.
Thank you. And that first season is, I think, untouchable. It's such a perfect season of television. And not to talk about that because we're talking about season 3 here, but the second season was a little bit rockier. The episodes started getting longer. The character dynamics started to weave a little bit more, and for good or for bad, there is some really good stuff in season 2, but it's a little bit less. It's not perfect. It's a little bit bumpier. And then season 3 comes around, and it's like, okay, we got to tie this up. The episodes get even longer. We're talking hour-plus episodes in season 3, and the format of the show doesn't always fit really long episodes, but I feel like they really started to understand the wider cast, bigger than just Jason Sudeikis, and they really started to lean into some of these other characters that had so much potential, and it really paid off. And I've in droves, I think. But ultimately, it still felt a little bit bumpy. The finale is, I think, it's good. It's certainly not as good. I'll give you spoilers for season 2 or season 1 of Severance. Not this, really not spoilers, but the spoiler is that it had a great finale. That it might be the best season finale of any show I've ever seen. Obviously, a series finale is a different beast. You have a lot more you have to do. So I think they largely do enough to achieve what they're trying to get done, but it doesn't. The finale itself doesn't leave me blown away. I still think when I still think of Ted Lasso, I still think of season 1. There's certainly moments from throughout the series that bubble up for me. It's still a show about optimism and being a better person and how you perceive the world and how you can influence the world around you and the people around you for the better. And so that all works for me still, but I had to be included here because it's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's just profoundly great, and emotionally it just strikes me in just wherever I'm weakest in my heartstrings, it plucks those areas, and it has done so consistently throughout the series. It does so again in season 3. It's not the show's strongest season because again the first season is unbeatable, but it's better than season 2, and you have to admire a show that has a concise beginning, middle, and end. No offense to The Walking Dead, for instance, which doesn't have that, but very different beast. And I do pick on The Walking Dead for its kind of longevity. It's undead nature. It's just seeming like a rambling corpse at this point. But you have to give a show credit when it has a vision. It's willing to stick to its guns in terms of it's, we're only going to do 3 seasons. That's the show, and then we're going to move on. And ultimately, by the way, the show that the creator of the show moved on to create another Apple TV Plus show called Shrinking, and that show's great also, and it's on my honorable mentions. So, yeah, that Ted Lasso season 3, it's kind of like you're sad it's over, but you're glad that it happened. Kind of, that's a little cliche, but it's the end of an era for me. I will still always watch the Christmas special every Christmas. I did so again this year. I will likely, probably more so than any series I've ever seen, probably go back and rewatch the whole series pretty regularly. I know I've already watched this first season at least 3 or 4 times, so I suspect that'll continue to be the case. And season 3, I think, again, helps tie a bow on what was a really truly great series. Have either of you guys watched or finished Ted Lasso, or am I the only one who's on that Ted Lasso train?
Yeah. I watched all 3 seasons, and I feel like when a show like this ends, and I have a lot of the same feelings you do with like just having a show that's just about like unapologetic optimism, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's really nice to have to just watch a show like that. And when a show like that ends, then I think, yeah, it's a little bit sad, but I can also be like, okay, well, what's going to happen next with these creators, and what are they going to go on to make next? So you can kind of be, okay, well, this was great, but as you said, season 1 was the best, and it starts to petter off just a little bit. But you're like, okay, well, what will these guys do next? And maybe we get a new kind of Ted Lasso-esque show, or
Yeah, and that's what Shrinking is for me, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen Shrinking?
I have, actually. Yeah, I watched the first. I can't remember if I watched the whole first season, but I definitely watched a lot of it. Yeah, really good stuff.
That's Jason Segel,
Mhm.
starring alongside someone you might
Harrison
have
Ford.
seen, Harrison Ford, as well as Jessica Williams, who is really, really funny. But it's like the whole cast in that show, in Shrinking, again, similar kind of. It does feel almost like they just took the vibes from Ted Lasso and then moved it over to Shrinking. It really feels
Yeah.
that way, and
Yeah, I guess I can
it's
see
a
that.
kind of a spiritual successor in a lot of ways to Ted Lasso. So if you did enjoy it, it took me a little bit because it felt like a little on the nose to be like, hey, it's a show about a psychologist therapist who is depressed, and it just feels like a little like, it's like, I feel like I've heard that story before, I've seen it before. I can't put my finger on when or where I would have seen it, but it feels like I've seen it before. But the approach that it takes, and this is maybe not fair, but I've never really liked Jason Segel very much. I like
What?
I just I don't know. I like, if I look at his filmography, he How I Met Your
So
Mother,
How I Met Your
Sex
Mother, you
Tape.
just didn't enjoy any episode.
No, I don't like that show. No,
Oh, oh
no,
no.
no.
We have a
But like,
problem.
there's your problem, right? I mean, I don't know. Like, it just he's never really vibed with me on on, I guess, a couple different levels, but he really works for me here. And maybe he's doing the same thing he did in How I Met Your Mother or whatever, but and I'm just not, I didn't pick up on that, or I'm in a different space. But for me, yeah, it's just it's a different beast. It was kind of the same thing with Jason Sudeikis, by the way, who I also didn't really care for, generally speaking, in most things. But then in Ted Lasso, he just comes across as the most endearing person, and I have to say the same thing about Jason Segel. So maybe it's the writing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeremy, your number 3, or your vague, for the audience, we should fill the audience in here. Jeremy doesn't like to prepare a list, quote unquote. He doesn't like to be boxed into formats, quote unquote, or structure. He likes to be a little bit more freewheeling. He's a free spirit, as it were. So he is deciding in real time what his favorite, and I'm ripping here to give him a little bit extra time, to give him a little longer to decide what his number 3 movie is, or television show is. But Jeremy, have you decided? Did you know what your number 3 is, or do we need to come back to you?
Yeah, like I don't really watch TV.
Is
Is kind of
that
the
because you have a
thing.
kid, or you just don't, or just TV just doesn't fit your lifestyle?
I guess it's all the same. I guess I don't know. I mean, yeah, like there's only like The Last of Us obviously is the only one I can kind of like
Sure.
kind of comes to me because that's the only time I remember like actively like settling in or making it the plan
Right. Sunday
or you know what I
nights,
mean?
HBO, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then other than so that's probably my number one.
Spoilers.
Um, but I also I don't know if I have three. Um, but I do know Beef. I did watch many episodes of that. I don't know if I finished it, but
Beef is
um,
great. Beef is won some.
yeah,
It won a bunch of Emmys, and it's
yeah,
on
it did
my
for
it's on
acting.
my honorable mentions. It didn't make my top
Hmm.
my top 3, but it was close, I would say, for making it. I really liked Beef. I just think it's like such a good like glimpse into the short. How do I phrase this? We all have a short fuse at the right moment, right? We all have
Mhm.
patience given in the right moments. But if you catch someone at the right exact moment when they are at their lowest or in the shit, you can kind of like explode them, right? This is an example of that happening to two people at the exact same time, and it's like it creates such a endlessly entertaining
Hmm.
back and forth dynamic and a glimpse into how regardless of where you come from in life, we're all just people, right? Like we're all just human beings with flaws and problems. And so you have the titular character, well, not titular because no one's called Beef, but they have a beef, the two characters who have the beef. Come from these completely different style of life, right? But this one moment joins them together and then they can't separate because their emotions are too raw and they're too, I don't know, weak to those emotions. They're too willing to give in to those like
Mhm.
baser instincts. I don't know. Jeremy, how would you describe it? The beef or beef? Sorry, not the beef is a different show.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well there. I just found it super entertaining and refreshing, like just seeing these two super normal people unhinged, and then like you said, like that one bad thing kind of triggering it, and then we just get this prolonged like rivalry or whatever, and it's just so like fascinating to see that play out, and just so funny and like oh my goodness moments.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's basically why I kind of like stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Steven Yeun and Ali Wong both won an Emmy. I'm pretty sure for their role in this. But like, I genuinely believe that every single actor that's on the show is doing some like of their best work. Like
Yeah, so
every
funny.
even side character is effortlessly hilarious. But the thing that makes it so funny to me, anyway, is that they all feel like true to life humans, and
Hmm.
they're just dealing with. It's like they can't really understand why someone would do the things that the characters in the show are doing. It's like it doesn't make sense to them, and it doesn't even make sense to us as viewers because it's so ridiculous,
But it's
but
like
you buy
it's
it.
like a fantasy though, because you could keep doing these things, but
Right.
no one would ever do that.
Right, like, when they look up, like, oh my god, like, how they figure out who's who and, like, how to find each other and stuff based on,
Yeah.
like, the like, this, like, detective work that they're doing.
Yeah, it
Again,
would
you would
never
no one would
last
ever
this
do that.
long.
Yeah,
There
well,
would never be
exactly.
this many interactions and last this long, and like they're basically playing a game, like at a certain point.
But for both of them, it's an escape from their monotonous
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah.
Neither of them
It's more
like the life
exciting.
they're living. Yeah. It's a great show. It's deserving of the Emmys. Vince, did you have a
Yeah.
chance to watch Beef?
I did,
What do you
and your description of like how it wouldn't go on as far as it was, like totally right. Because like
Yeah.
when he goes to Ali Wong's house, Amy's house, And as like the like construction guy, like that's way too sketchy. She would like no one would ever let him in. And the way it ends, where he pees in their bathroom and then runs away,
No, man,
the
that's
husband was
so
way too
hilarious.
calm. No
No,
one would ever
man,
be that.
that is so funny though. It works because Ali Wong's husband, played by Joseph Lee, I think.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah, you got it.
yeah, he comes off as just such a himbo, right? But then he
Mhm.
has this like whole deep, like, his own like maturity and emotional maturity that you just don't see because we only see him through Ali Wong's perspective.
Mm.
I don't know. I just think it makes sense because he's a little naive that he would let that happen, right? That he would let these guys in. Um, and so I don't know. For me, it works. It is ridiculous. You guys are right. Like it's not like a great example of what would actually happen in real life. But you're right, Jeremy. You're totally hit the nail on the head. It's like a fantasy come true, essentially. All right, so Jeremy, you have to come up with at least one more because you have mentioned already The Last of Us. We'll get to that. And now Beef, which is on neither mine or Vince's list. So you have to come up with at least one more. How about this? We'll take a quick break to do some honorable mention, just riffing. That'll maybe spur some memory. So, um, Vince, do you want to list a couple of your honorable mentions that didn't make your top three? Here's how I like to do it. And you can do it however you like, but I'll give you some kind of examples. I know you haven't been on the show for a while, but
Mhm.
I like to talk about sometimes why it didn't make the list, right? But you can feel free to get into like um, the show itself, why it's great, all that stuff. Feel free to riff as much as you like on that stuff. But yeah, take it away.
Yeah, I think I'll start with my. Um, uh,
Your
I have
cheat?
three. I have three,
You want to start with
and
your
I'll start with
cheating
my
one?
least controversial one,
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
which is Gen V, the boys spinoff, uh, which
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed all the way through, and it honestly didn't feel like a spinoff of a show. It just felt like the next season of the boys, just without all the characters except for one.
Except, but here's
Which
the thing. I mean,
yeah,
the boys works because I love the characters on that show, and not because I love the gore and the excessive. I mean, gore isn't even the right word because it's not really gory. It's just bloody. It's just lots of
yeah,
blood. So it's like, I don't really love the gross out stuff that the boys likes to do. That's not my like cup of tea necessarily. So I tried getting into I actually watched probably 4 episodes. I do want to finish it because I understand that this show blends seamlessly into the upcoming
oh
season
yeah,
of The Boys, which,
yes,
but
that's what
again,
I hear
don't
too.
spoil no spoilers, but I
Okay, yeah.
do love The Boys. And um I can you articulate, what it is, like where those connections to the boy, what works for the boys and what works for Gen V that could convince me to come back into the show? Because again, the lack of those characters that have that charisma that the boys has, like those, that is a truly stellar cast. I don't feel that that's what you have in Gen V, but I don't, where do you come down on that?
Yeah, I think the characters in Gen V are actually quite um, uh, relatable. I find, and in some of their struggles that they have, but the overall arching story that's going through this, it still builds up that same kind of dread. Like you're feeling like, case something bad's going to happen. You kind of see the pieces lining up, and you just have this like undertone of dread that just keeps building up and building up, and then as it gets to the end, as things start to fall, and and you get that payoff, and it to me, that's like this the same feeling as one of the seasons of The Boys, where you get that feeling of dread, and it keeps building and building, and so it felt the same way as a season of The Boys would in Gen B. And yeah, I also personally connected with some of the struggles that some of the characters were going through, and that kind of hit me on a personal level. And
Well,
yeah,
that'll
it
help.
was great.
That'll help a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's set in a college setting, and I haven't been in college for a long time. So, um, I guess, and I've never been in an American college, which is a very different experience from what we have here in Canada, where there isn't really like that same frat fraternity kind of vibe. You don't go live on campus really unless you're travel for school, and even then, I have to imagine. I don't know, Vince. Yeah, I think did you travel for school?
No, not for school.
Right. So even for those who did, what I've heard is that it's quite a different experience. It's still very, very much not like what the U.S. college experience is like, which I assume why people pay so much money so they can have that experience. I don't know. But yeah, so I guess that makes sense. I need to go back and probably give that another shot. There are certain things that did grab me, but it was one of those things where like I'd watch an episode and be like, okay, that's good. But I didn't want to like immediately go watch the next episode, which that is a different feeling than the boys did give me a different experience where I did want to do that. Okay. So let me name one of my honorable mentions.
Yes.
And then we'll go back. I want to talk about The Bad Batch season 2. This is a very early show from 2023. It premiered on like January 3rd or something like that. Of 2023. This is the sequel to The Bad Batch season 1, which was a 2022 show. And this is essentially the animated sequel to the Clone Wars, right? The Clone Wars ended with season 7, and they immediately transitioned over to The Bad Batch, which follows a group of clone commandos, clone special forces, I guess, because their clone commandos are different. Who are mutated clones who are unique from the traditional clone in the Clone Wars and the Star Wars world. And the animation is still as top notch as Lucasfilm animation has kind of really taken a major leap when they kind of did season 6 and 7. It just really is unbelievable how good it looks. Especially the environments and ship designs can look, given the right setting, almost as good as live action stuff, in my opinion. A little bit more stylized, obviously. But what The Bad Batch is doing so great, and season 3 is just around the corner, is that it's a really great pairing with Andor, because it gives you the perspective of how the Empire established itself, right? We saw when Palpatine in the Senate announced that they were going to reorganize the Galactic Republic into the First Galactic Empire, and everyone cheered. And Padme said that cringy line, but it's funny. James Cameron loves that line. And there's an interview where he's talking where
No.
him and
Come on.
yes, George, yes, James Cameron and George Lucas are having a chat. It's like in one of those, I don't know what it was for, but they were like interviewing each other essentially. James Cameron thought, he's like, you had this brilliant line in the prequels about how I think what did she say? Padme says
this is the way democracy dies, with thunderous applause.
Yes, and they're making analogies to like the Vietnam War and all these other things. It's a great, actually, if you can find that piece, it's really fun to watch George Lucas and James Cameron riff off each other. It's really James Cameron leading the conversation because he's just that much more kind of like compelling person than George Lucas, who's like a very chill dude. But The Bad Batch establishes this baseline of how does the Empire get started. It gives it to you through the lens of these characters. Actually, hold on, I'll pull it up here so I have the screen share going. So season 2 ends. I'll just kind of skip through because I don't want to spend too much time here. But the season 2 ends on a kind of 2-part finale that personally I thought was not only shocking given what we've seen from Star Wars as of late, which is, I think, played it very safe, including The Mandalorian. We still haven't had any movies, and even Ahsoka has played it, I think, extremely safe. And The Bad Batch season 2 takes that. Again, Andor is an exception to that as well, but they take that formula and they throw it out the window, and they do some extremely compelling character studies under the shadow of Imperial, the Imperial boot. And there's a compelling mystery about how the clones still fit into, the return of Palpatine in the sequels and all that stuff. It is some of the best Star Wars storytelling going on right now. I understand that it's animated and that can sometimes be a barrier of entry for some people, but I think the storytelling here is relatively mature, especially for an animated series, especially for Star Wars, and they are not shy from, I think, doing some pretty compelling and interesting things. There's an alien referenced. There's an episode that like heavily references Alien. They do some really cool stuff with mood and yeah. I just
Mhm.
stakes are real. There are, which I think has been a major problem in Star Wars as of late, and I'll talk about that more later. But it
Mhm.
is 100% one of the best Star Wars shows out there right now. I can't wait for the final season. That's season 3. It's coming out very soon. Um, so get on board. Go back, watch the first episode. It's a 90-minute pilot, essentially, that picks up right at Order 66. It is essentially a animated movie that's much better than the Clone Wars animated movie was from whenever hell that came out. So I highly recommend going to watch that. If you don't like that, then you're probably fine. But I can't imagine you watching that and saying, no, this sucks, not wanting to watch more, especially if you're into the Star Wars animation at all. So that's Bad Batch season 2. Vince, have you seen Bad Batch?
Oh, I'm on board. I'm right on board.
Okay,
Watched
you're
all the way to the end of season
perfect.
2, and yeah, I had my own on like gripes with little parts of season 2 where they
It's
like
not
take
perfect. Yeah,
breaks with the storyline, and but but overall, I agree 100%. It's a great show.
great. I'm glad you agree. Jeremy, I know I can't convince you to watch Star Wars on television for some reason, but I'm telling you, man, this is some cool shit. Okay. Um,
Well, I like how every time you ask Vince if he's seen something, he's like he's 100% so far.
Yeah,
Go, you're
yeah,
shooting. I'm batting 1,000 here. This is
doing
great.
great.
This is great because normally when I ask Jeremy if he's seen something, it's all like, yeah, it's gonna be a no from me, dog.
Yeah.
Lot of that. So, Jeremy, I already know you haven't seen it because I've tried to convince you to watch The Bad Batch before, and nothing I'm
Hmm.
saying now is going to convince you. So, um, on that note, let's go back to Jeremy. Do you have a number 2 pick?
Uh, I don't. But do you guys not have like Succession on your list at all? Like I
That's a
thought that
great
was like the
question, Jeremy,
biggest
and the answer is
show of the
no.
year.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't know what's going on with you guys who watch everything, but
Did you watch Succession?
no. But like I'm
Okay,
aware of its
it's cultural
popularity
relevance.
and yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So I know why I haven't watched it, but Jeremy, is there a reason that you, knowing about it, having heard obviously HBO, I know you're particularly willing to give HBO stuff a shot. What held you back from it? Is it the fact that it's already 3 seasons or 4 seasons or whatever, and that's like too
Well, I
much?
like now knowing that it's over and it is only 4 seasons. So I mean, I'm not really know entirely. I'm definitely leaning towards watching it now. It's based off of what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. But was it just because it was ongoing? That I feel like that can be a challenge. If there's an ongoing series, it's hard to like convince yourself to jump in, especially if it's ongoing for a long time. Fortunately, we're
Yeah.
talking about not that many seasons. This is my challenge with Sopranos. I really want to go back and watch Sopranos, but how many seasons of Sopranos are we talking about?
Mm.
Like, how many are we talking?
What do you mean? How many do you think there
How
are?
many seasons I assume there's
There's
at least
probably like 7 or
6,
something.
7 seasons. Yeah, it's a lot. Like, and this is
Yeah,
like old school TV, so
it's
like
just
probably
it's so
12
good though.
episodes, 24 episodes a season. Like, yikes. you know, I don't know. You're right. Succession is probably a blind spot. For me,
Or Barry.
I love Barry. I
Everyone talks about Barry a
I
lot.
love Barry. I do love Barry, but I'm only partway through season
Silo.
2. You can't convince me to watch Silo. I won't do it. I'm sorry. I can't. Um, Vince, are you aware of the Succession phenomena? Is there any reason that you
Oh,
didn't watch it?
only that I know it exists. It's on. I just looked up really quickly here. It's on Crave, and I'm kind of in like the cycle of okay, well, subscribe to Disney Plus for a month, and then Crave for a month, and then Netflix for a month, and then kind of make my way through the cycles and let things build up over time. And Succession just never hit my list of like, Kate, when I get Crave, I'll give it a watch. But I hear it's really good, so I think when my Crave cycle comes around again, it's on my list.
Yeah, I think you're right to, by the way, cycle through Crave because it's $20 a month
Oh yeah.
with HBO, and it's like that's crazy. Like $20. It's it's more than that actually. But even just saying 20 drives me up the wall. But anyway, you're right. I think it's probably going to be something similar for me where I'll probably get to it. But here's the thing. Succession is about rich people problems and business acumen, and I I could be misinterpreting it because I've never seen it, but this is the impression I get of it. And I deal with a lot of that stuff at work, and I have a hard time caring about rich people problems. It actually really irks me. So um, that's a challenge for me. Okay, Vince, you're number two.
My number two. My number two. My number two put a little pep in my step when I started watching this show, and that is Loki season 2.
Great show.
And, oh yeah, it just made me so happy to see the Marvel TV kind of come back to the quality, I guess, that I was expecting out of Marvel. Indie company Marvel can make great stuff, but like when they have a show like Loki and a story that they tell too, with time jumping back and forth, time
Mhm.
jumping stories just get me. It's one of my favorite forms of storytelling where it just really does it for me. And I think it kind of stems back from like when I was a kid playing Chrono Trigger. Anybody remembers that from the Super Nintendo? That being a
Yes, I
time
do.
jump.
Yes.
You
Yep.
do? Oh,
Yes, I do remember.
fantastic.
It's been a long time to be honest. But yes, I do
It's
know it was a time travel story.
yeah.
This is this is different because there's a whole like realm outside of time in the in that show, the TVA. That the TVA is such a cool vibe about it that it really helps carry the show in my opinion. Um,
Mhm.
Tom Hiddleston, that turns
Oh,
out he's a
he's
pretty good actor. Turns out,
he's putting
I
in
got
the
to be
work.
honest. Yeah, I love Owen Wilson here though. I think he really steals the
Mm,
show for me. He has such. Here's the thing. He's kind of just playing Owen Wilson, but he's been playing Owen
yeah.
Wilson for his entire career, and ain't broke, don't fix it. And
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
so his whole thing about the sea-doos, jet skis, is endearing. I think it's fun. The way that the series wraps up, because it's a 2-season series. It's a mini series.
Hmm.
And I think it ends in such an interesting place that leaves
Hmm.
you questioning things in a way that, I'll be honest, hasn't no Marvel thing has left me feeling that way in a very long time. And so one of the things I want to talk about today was the fact that from trends and topics of the year, is that Marvel, you could even argue maybe Star Wars to some degree, but Marvel for sure on the decline. We've talked about this on the Rain Show, for a
Yeah.
while. Certainly hitting a slump. I don't decline is a tough word, but three data points I think equate to a trend. I think you can do no fewer than three, right? Two is not a trend. Three is a trend. And there are at least three data points from this year alone that constitute a trend. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania,
Hmm.
Secret Invasion, which might be the worst thing that Marvel's ever made,
Hmm.
and um what's the other? Oh, and the Marvels. So there is an exception to that, I guess, in there, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I think is quite good. I had it at one point in my top three. It did get bumped out of my top three movies, so spoilers for that for later. But
Oof.
um, I don't know, guys. Are we worried about the state of Marvel? Loki does give me some hope, to be honest, because I think it does something that it uses the medium of television in a way that makes sense for the storytelling it's trying to tell. It has interesting stories, interesting mysteries. It has fun characters and leaves us in a place of wonder, which I think is what Marvel can do when it's doing its job well. But are we concerned, Jeremy? I'll go to you first. Jeremy, are you concerned about what's happening over at Marvel and Disney?
Concerned is just not the word I would personally
Too
use, but I
soon?
guess no, I mean, I guess Feige could use that. I mean, I don't really care either way. I mean, it can't last forever, I guess, but I don't know. I haven't watched any of these shows. I just don't care to. I just don't know why I would. But Deadpool 3 is the only thing I'm thinking of, basically,
Did
when
you
it comes to
hear
Marvel.
I think I saw there's a headline from like today or yesterday or sometime early this week that was
Yes.
like Deadpool 3 is set to save the MCU. I feel like
Right.
that's a little bit of PR stuff going on there. Do you?
Yeah, but I don't know. If you remember our conversations, I've been kind of hyping this one up
Yes.
pretty high. And when I saw that, that was just kind of confirming my whole kind of hope for it. And just with Hugh Jackman alone, like that star power, that Marvel
Mhm.
legacy, which is kind of the last
It
big
made
Marvel
them
stuff
bad.
has been based off of legacy essentially with the multiverse, which is that's like the new era we're in with superheroes and comics is
Right.
like it's like this weird modern multiverse is like all we care about.
I think it's all they care about. I'm telling you right now that the multiverse is probably the MCU's single biggest problem and probably the reason that it's stumbling, to be honest. And I think the hope, what Marvel needs, from my opinion, and I don't know if Deadpool 3 is this, but maybe it is essentially their version of a Crisis on Infinite Earths, which
Hmm.
collapses the multiverse back into a single universe. There's obviously a
Hmm.
DC Marvel correlation there, but um, multiverse means no stakes. And no stakes means boring storytelling. So until they can solve that problem, and I think there's no way to solve that problem without making multiversal travel extremely difficult or impossible or erasing the multiverse altogether, I think you're in for a real problem. Um,
Yeah, but with Deadpool, it's just not going to be taken so seriously.
yeah, I think that
It's
helps.
gonna, it's you know what I mean. It's gonna be really poking fun at it, and then because it's peaked already, like you know what I mean. Like it's
Hmm.
can't keep doing it, but it's also like the genie out of the bottle. It's like how do you like gracefully go back? And it just comes down to storytelling and risks, I guess. But when it comes to the superhero, temple movie, it's go big or go home type thing.
Is that why you think TV doesn't work for you? Because it can't, by its nature, it can't really be that big.
Yeah, it's not really about the scale though. Like it's just about character development and like what they go through. Like
Yeah, but TV
uh,
allows for you to spend more time with a character in theory, and that's what you get with
and
Loki.
other characters like like who'd you say was in Loki? Uh, Luke Wilson or whatever. Or like
No, I didn't.
it's like okay,
Well,
like
it's not Luke
why
Wilson. It's
or
Owen
Owen
Wilson.
Wilson?
To
It's
be
like
fair, he's the better
why
Wilson brother. To be fair,
it's just like why is he just thrown into I don't know. It's just not for me, I guess.
I mean, it's interesting you say that because you're not the first, and I kind of want to understand it a bit better, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but there's podcasts I listen to, people who are the biggest Marvel fans in the entire world, who are just like, I don't know, the TV stuff doesn't excite me, and I don't get it technically because it's like it seems like it should excite you as a fan of that stuff. You should be, it's like more of it, and you get
Yeah,
to
but
end
then
it. Yeah,
when you talk about Secret Invasion, though, it's just like
that was bad.
it doesn't do anything. There's no excitement. There's no building towards something. It just all these projects just seem like they're a little haphazard in terms of how they connect or like their hopes in terms of them connecting. Because like I don't know, like contracts aren't like aligning up or like people have just disagreements on
Oh yeah,
what
the
to
business
do.
side of things. I mean, I get like, I think the challenge is if you go into a world where you assume that most people aren't going to watch the shows but only the movies, you're limited by what you can tell, what stories you can tell in the story in the TV shows. And I think the challenge, and maybe they're waking up to this, and I think there's some positive signs out of like Daredevil, Born Again, having gone through this kind of complete shakeup, and really adopting this Netflix canon as a concept to say that what television can do, and I think Jeremy hit on this really well, which is that it can allow you to explore character in a much more interesting way without having to be world-ending stakes and having to do all that bit larger than life movie stuff. You have more time. But what
Mhm.
the Marvel shows have tried to do is try to bring those big stakes. And because they have smaller budgets, it feels chintzy and it feels cheap. So I don't know. I think that's a problem. To be honest, I don't think Loki suffered that problem. It maintained a relatively small scope, which I think is important. Um, and then established a concept, a really interesting concept about where it ends the series. I'm not gonna spoil it. That has the potential to lay interesting groundwork for the future of the MCU. This is the challenge that I think they've been having, which is that they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want the shows to be as big as the movies, but they don't want to spend the money, and they don't have the cast. They don't have all the actors that they need to do that, and they can't do the crossover stuff as much. So it ends up feeling less important. And then when you get to the movies, they feel like they don't matter at all. I mean, if you watched Secret Invasion and then went to see the Marvels, it's like that show didn't exist. And maybe they chose to edit that way because that show sucks, and it truly sucks. But it it it's you feel like you'd want to reward the people who are watching those things, and maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you need to reward the movie viewers with saying, hey, here's stuff that you're never going to see on the big screen, and it's an opportunity to explore a character's emotional core depth. Like, imagine, if we had introduced the Punisher in the movies first, and then you got the Punisher stuff from like season 2 and of
Yeah.
Daredevil and the Punisher series. That's a really compelling story to tell once you've established a character, and then you have the opportunity to tell these really kind of flesh out their backstory, and then have them appear maybe as a side character or something again later in a movie, right? And I personally, with the kind of new canonization of Netflix stuff, can't wait for John Bernthal to come back as Punisher. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Any final thoughts on Loki season 2?
Yeah. The way they did the end of episode 4, which again I won't go into spoilers, but Julian, do you remember how they finished off that episode?
Episode 4?
It's the one where they cut to white at the end.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting. It's yeah. I mean, I like the whole series. I think what stands out to me is the And by the way, you're right that final moment in that episode 4 is really cool because you don't know where it's going to go next.
Exactly, and you have a whole week.
Yeah.
You have a whole week to think, and everybody's just freaking out, and we don't know what does this mean.
I do love, by the way, the weekly release model. We've been talking about this for a while. It has to be. It's the only way this works. I think that streamers are understanding this, and this is another trend that I think we'll see continue in 2024. Okay, my number 2 is The Last of Us. I know, Vince, this is your number 1. I know, Jeremy, this is your number 1. So let's dive into The Last of Us. The Last of Us, obviously, an adaptation of the Naughty Dog video game, massively one of the biggest video games of all time, right? There's actually 2. They're basing this Last of Us Season 2 on The Last of Us Part 2, the video game. And that's in development now. It's shooting now. There's likely Part 2 will be adapted into 2 seasons of television. But we're talking about Season 1. Season 1 adapts the first game almost 1-to-1, with the exception of Episode 3, which gives us probably the best episode of the series, which gives us the backstory of Bill. And I think that this show works for 2 reasons. A, it treats the source material with a lot of respect. It doesn't try to say, well, are people going to understand clickers and all these other concepts? Is that going to work for TV? This happens all the time. For whatever reason, people feel like they know better than the source material, and they want to make changes. They don't really do that. They tell a very 1-to-1 story. In fact, to the point where if you've played the game, the show itself can feel almost a little redundant. I think this is part of the reason that I put it at number 2 and not number 1, is because this is really the second time I've experienced this story after playing the game. It's nice to get a little bit of additional things, like, again, that episode 3 where they flesh out Bill's story, and also that episode where they do there's technically a prequel game add-on DLC that I never played, that gives more of Ellie's backstory that they give us in this show, and I really appreciated that because, again, I had never done that. But it treats the source material with respect, but also really makes it feel grounded in a real world, in our real world. Um, and of course, there's some things like why there's so much forest outside of Boston and stuff that doesn't make really any sense and all that stuff. But ultimately, that's like doesn't really matter. Um, it it understands the characters. It understands why they're important. It understands their dynamics and why they're important. I do think they dropped the ball with the Joel killing spree. Spoilers, I guess.
Mm.
The Joel killing spree at the end of the series. I think the game handles it much better. The show rushes through that sequence, and I think that's a mistake. Um, I ultimately think I like the game more than the show. I think that's where I've kind of landed on this because I think the game understands what it's trying to accomplish and uses the gameplay to get there on top of the cutscenes. Whereas you have to really changing the venue or the sort of the medium to television requires a different perspective. And I just think that, and this could be that I played the game first. I just think that the show loses something in that translation. I think for people who'd never played the game, this is one of the best shows ever, and I understand that. But for me, who has, it's missing something. I don't know. I don't know who wants to go next, but what what do you guys think about the show, especially compared to the game? How does this land for you? I don't know, Jeremy. Do you want to go first?
Um, yeah, I mean, we were just so tapped into the game because we were just that perfect age, owning the PS3.
Naughty Dog was
Uh,
our was the was is was the best studio in the
yeah,
world. Yeah,
we were just so zoned into that like reality of like this is like the next big thing. You know what I mean? Like, you can go watch your movies or whatever, but we'll be over here playing this masterpiece that does so many wonderful things and is dark and is just uh it blended like the experience of a movie and game like pretty seamlessly. So obviously a tall task for the show, but we've talked about it a lot. It's like just having Neil Druckmann, the creator,
yeah.
involved in the show is just such a blessing,
It's
really.
so
Like
important. I
there's
mean,
no like
Mm.
how like how much better could the show really be? You know what I
I
mean?
think if
Like
you didn't have Neil Druckmann involved, I think the show would be, I don't know how to quantify it, but like significantly worse as a show. Because
Okay.
I think it doesn't take much to disconnect you from what made the game successful. That I think someone who maybe doesn't come from that world, it doesn't truly get it, could easily start misinterpreting things and start applying like, oh, this is where it's important, and it's not that thing. Um, and Neil Druckmann really helped, I think, maintain like keep the train on the tracks, right? Like, no. You know, episode one needs to be a recreation of the first or the prequel, of the first act essentially of the game. It has to be that, and it has to be that by in this specific way. And again, I don't. I'm speculating because we don't know exactly of how what his influence is. But again, you can imagine a scenario where it could easily get off track if you didn't have someone advocating for the original vision. And I think that's a great point, Jeremy. Vince, where do you land on this show? Again, this is obviously your number one.
Yeah, yeah. Number one, again, yeah, like you guys, I played The Last of Us when it came out and absolutely loved it. I think one of the big things when it comes to adaptations from a game to a movie, I don't know what it is, but it's the music. If they
Well,
can,
yeah.
yeah, right.
Santiago, what's his name? Man, what is his name? Um,
Oh,
I'll find it. But
yeah,
continue. Yeah,
but like if you can bring in some of
unbelievable.
the music, just like hitting some of those notes, or even like using whole tracks, just rearrange for sure for TV, but like using the same music, and I'll get into this with some of my movie choices later, but I think that does a lot for tying in the feelings that you had when you were playing the game, and when it's the same music, you're pulling back into those feelings, and it's really bringing you into that, and then that coupled with how great the acting was from everybody in the show,
Oh yeah. I mean, you
it
can't
just,
really beat having cast like maybe the best casting choice of all time is having
oh,
Pedro
hands
Pascal play
down.
Joel Miller. It's like what a great cast. I think people were concerned about Bella Ramsey as Ellie, but I think she does a great
she
job.
was so good.
Yeah, and by the way, the music from Gustavo Santaolalla,
Thank you.
maybe one of the hardest names to pronounce of all time. I'm a sucker for Spanish guitar, classical guitar, and this whole show is built around, or the whole score essentially from his creation is built around Spanish guitar, and it's great. It's all time all time great score, hands down, just from the game alone.
Oh yeah, I've got that on repeat sometimes when I'm at work, just listening to the soundtrack.
Also, I don't think we have to give Craig Mazin a lot of credit here, as the showrunner and the director of 2 episodes. He did Chernobyl, another HBO miniseries, a truly heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, can't look away from car crash series of, and I say that in like the events of the series are kind of this like nonstop train that you can't look away from. Not that it's like a car crash that's a bad thing. That sometimes is a misunderstanding. But he took that show and those sensibilities. And by the way, coming from a comedy background, crushed that show and then brought those learnings to The Last of Us. And I think it's hard to there is not that many successful video game adaptations. This is by far the most successful. It's not even close, probably.
Yeah.
And it's made the game, which was already a phenomenon among video game players, into a worldwide phenomenon for almost everybody. Like that is a home run to win the World Series type of execution, right? And
Hell yeah.
I just don't think that can be understated. Jeremy, anything else you want to add about The Last of Us?
No, I'm just excited to see like where they take season 2, because obviously that game is so polarizing and still I think being digested to this day. And you're gonna need more than one season, I think, to pull off game number 2.
Yeah. Oh,
So
two is going to be tough, man. I think it's going to test people's allegiance to this. They're like, oh man, Last of Us, such a great series. Can't wait to see what happens with Joel and Ellie next. Well, the thing is, I feel like they could have done a second season that was in between the games and totally bought themselves some time, because the rumor is that The Last of Us Part 3 is in development. And that likely that they're going to want to try to avoid a Game of Thrones scenario where you outpace the production of the source material. But I also know that it's going to take at least 2 seasons to tell The Last of Us Part 2 properly, so there's time. We'll just put it that way. But it is going to be a true test. I'm actually not really excited about having to listen to the what will probably be a not a great reaction to the beginning of that series. I'm worried about it. And I think if those who know, and those who don't look it up, you're better to just wait, have it experience for yourself. Okay, so that brings me to my number one. My number one is The Bear season 2. The Bear also took home a bunch of Emmys. That's not the reason I put it at number one. The reason I put it at number one is because this is a truly nearly perfect show. It understands its characters. It understands what keeps the audience motivated. It has a satisfying. I really feel like they have this brilliant like methodology here where yes, the characters are great and getting to experience their individual, character arcs and progressions is satisfying, no doubt. But having the Bear centered around opening, especially season 2, opening a new restaurant, I think creates this really interesting. It's like having this little home base that you're excited to, like, oh, look at the progress they're making. You get so invested in the restaurant being a success. And I think that is such like an underlying thread for how the show works. Because again, the characters are the bread and butter of the show, no doubt. Ayo Edeberry, specifically, who plays Sydney, is She's going to be directing some episodes next season. If she hasn't, I think she already directed a few. Breakout star, easily. Like Jeremy Allen White is great, no, for sure. But I think Ayo Edebiri is it's on a whole other level. There's a one they do a oneer. The first season has a oneer where they like this. Everything's blowing up in the kitchen of the old restaurant, and this one it's a oneer, but it's a extended sequence of Sydney and Carmen, Jeremy Allen White and Ayo Edebiri, sitting under a table, putting together furniture, and talking about um, their lives. And it's so long and it's so perfectly executed that you just can't, it's gripping. And again, you have this underlying motivation of wanting to see them succeed. You really care. But and I feel like it's almost cheating because they're using some of these like storytelling shorthands that I think are obvious, to us as viewers after the fact, but maybe are lost in the shuffle when you're writing a series or because it seems like these should be leveraged more often, or maybe it's too simple. I don't know. But they set up these characters like Jeremy Allen White's character Carmen, like Lionel Boyce's character Marcus, like Lisa Colon Zoya's character Tina, who and that's without, and there's others also, of course. But they start in this very stubborn, very set in their ways type of attitude. And then, Richie obviously is a great example. This is probably the best. Evan Moss Bashard, who won it also an Emmy for his role, as far as I remember. They start in these very stuck in their ways kind of places, and then by the end of the series, they've evolved. They've gone through a whole arc individually, but in relation to and in correlation with the restaurant, which again helps keep you motivated, to this place where they understand not only themselves better but also each other better. And I really truly can't overemphasize how satisfying it is to watch these individuals come together to create something beautiful, right? In this case, it's a restaurant experience, but it could be anything. And the interpersonal dynamics are not necessarily the driver, because I think there's a lot of things that keep the momentum in this series, as I mentioned, but they add so much flavor, if I can use a cooking analogy, to everything that's going on, right? Because they're their own individual humans. They're their own people. They're not just they're not just what they are at the restaurant. They have their own motivations and backstories and things that I think help make them extremely relatable. You'll get these amazing this flashback sequence that I think is, I don't know, a little hard to watch because it's a little true to life, maybe too true to life, about a family Christmas dinner. And people say it's full of a bunch of like cameos of big actors and stuff. But I think for me, that's not even my favorite episode. I think the Carmen episode of season 2 is my favorite episode. Oh, sorry, my Richie episode, the Richie episode, not Carmen episode. But I think it does a great job of illustrating how it can take these kind of simple concepts of just like, hey, a family dinner, and weave these interpersonal relationships into it to make it maybe the most gripping thing you've ever seen. And so for me, the first season of the show was a revelation. Season 2, I was ready to be a little disappointed because it's hard to top such a great first season. But this is a rare example where this isn't just better than season 1. It is like miles better than season 1. And it needs the foundation of season 1 for sure. But season 2 is like a true masterpiece, I think, in storytelling and acting and and writing ultimately, because it revolves. These characters are their writer who wrote them and how they come to life, and that part of that is the acting also, of course. It all comes together. But yeah, I can't say enough about the show. Vince, Help me keep continuing batting 1,000. Have you seen The Bear season?
You know it.
That's
I got
great.
you. I got you, man. Yeah, yeah. Watch season 1 and 2. I ended up watching season 1 and 2 back to back because I didn't get onto the Bear train until a little bit later when season 2 was coming out.
Hmm.
And yeah, it hooked me. As you were put it on your list, it's like, did I even see season 2? And like, of course I did. I just watched it all in one huge chunk, and
The
it
seasons are pretty
was
slow. I mean, sorry, it's pretty short, I think,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so and you can kind of blow through it pretty quick. Um,
oh yeah.
but I think you're totally right. So sorry, I did cut you off. Continue.
Yeah, and you're totally right. It's like this idea of like base building, like building like a home base, and like seeing this progression, and every episode something new's being added, and not just with the base, but with the characters as well. As like you say, that everybody's growing, and like you see even the main character, he falls down and he has to pick himself back up, and the growth that he has to go through, and struggle with his own, sometimes anger and frustrations, and having to work through that and still make everybody, work with everybody. I thought was yeah, it's all just really like it's an inspiring show.
Jeremy, I know you've seen some of it. Have you been able to keep up? Have you seen all of season 2?
Um, no, I saw one episode of season 2, I think,
Okay.
which was pretty cool. It was like some sort of like house party was
Yeah,
happening,
that's what the flashback episode I was talking about. Yeah.
and it was like just pretty sweet because it was showcasing like the anxieties and stresses of the kitchen, but it
Hmm.
was translated within this like family affair environment, and I thought that was pretty sweet.
And some huge actors just kind of
Yeah.
just keep walking into that
Yeah,
like some truly great talent. I don't know how they do it. Like I don't know how they get these actors to kind of just to just walk in for a single scene. But or like even one episode. But yeah, again, I can't express enough. Jeremy, do yourself a favor, watch all of season 2 of The Bear. If I think particularly for me, it's the fact that it is a show about a kitchen. I worked in a kitchen. I mean, I was always front of house, and they do have front of house here, which is why the Richie thing probably works for me too, because he kind of starts to understand the whole front of house concept. But I think if you've ever worked in any restaurant, this will have additional kind of value for you. All right, so that's television. I'm going to just list out some of my additional honorable mentions. I'll try to make this very quick. So, um, Poker Face, really fun detective series. Very much enjoyed that. There's a lot of great Star Trek this last year. Star Trek Strange New World season 2, Star Trek Picard season 3, and Star Trek Lower Deck season 4. If you like Star Trek, we are in a new golden age. This is really, truly great Star Trek stuff that harkens back to some of its best from the original series, The Next Generation, and more. So, can't express that enough. Get yourself a Paramount Plus subscription. Go dive into that.
add it to
Fargo
the
season
rotation.
5 is a return to form for a truly great dark comedy series that I think, especially more than any other, understands what Fargo is trying to be. This one's from Noah Hawley. I mentioned You mentioned Loki season 2, and then lastly, Scavengers Reign. This is a HBO Max animated series about a stranded spaceship on a kind of on a planet that is extremely hostile to everybody. It's very harrowing, but one of my favorite animated series, maybe one of my favorite series this season of television. Didn't make crack my top 3, but easily probably my top 5. Great show. Vince, you want to list out the rest of your honorable mentions?
Yeah, I've got two. I'll go through them real quick here. The first one is One Piece, the Netflix
No
adaptation.
way.
Oh hell yeah, man! So I'll start this by like I've never watched the One Piece anime before,
Okay.
and when this came out, I thought, okay, it's just a couple episodes, it's digestible. Let me give it a go. And I've watched a couple anime adaptations to live action before, and this one was actually really good. The way they handled their characters, and it goes back to the Last of Us, how it like respects the source material. This one really did respect the source material
How
quite
do you know you
a
didn't watch
lot.
it?
Oh well, yeah. All right, okay, fair enough. Right, yeah, I didn't watch, but that's what people say. But like it felt, yeah, okay, right, fair enough. But like it really, like the characters were great. They were fairly relatable for how animated they were acting in some points, but yeah, it was one of those, like, yeah, you turn it on and you get to feel happy for an hour, and yeah, that where take it wherever you get it. Like you said, the world's on fire, so whenever you get a little piece of happiness, yeah, you take it. So
Yeah, fair
that's
enough.
for One
I'm
Piece.
not gonna. I'm not to judge, but it does
Yeah,
seem
yeah,
like
yeah.
it was
I did
more.
try afterwards really quickly to try watching the anime, and I only got a couple episodes in. I'm like, this is a little bit too much for me.
Fair
So
enough.
sorry for any One Piece anime fans.
You also have Rings of Power here. I don't need to burst your bubble, but that show came out in 2022.
Oh, did it? Okay, delete it. All right, we don't need to talk about it.
No, it's fair to mention.
Did it really?
Yeah, I did. I double checked.
Okay, my
I
bad,
actually also
my bad.
really liked Rings of Power, for the record. I think it's a fun show. But and I've been especially more into the Lord of the Rings stuff as of late. I would like to revisit it again, I think, before season 2 comes out. But extremely expensive. The money's on the
Mhm.
screen. Um, I'm a fan. I'm not gonna. I know it's not one for one with what people want out of Tolkien adaptations, but I don't think there's any way to satisfy those people. So I enjoyed it. It's just fun to be back in Middle Earth, in my opinion. So, um, okay, disappointments. I'll quickly mention mine. Secret Invasion, I already said, truly terrible show. The Mandalorian season 3. I love Star Wars, but I think Mandalorian season 3 feels like it's missing something, and it's
Mhm.
hard to put your finger on it. It really tries to blow through, I think, a lot of story a little bit too quickly, and ends on a very odd note. With the announcement of the movie coming, it makes a little bit more sense, but still a little weird. You mentioned also Secret Invasion on yours, and Mandalorian season 3, but you
Yeah.
also didn't like What If season 2. Did you like What If season 1?
I did like What If season 1, and in my overall rankings of Marvel TV, What If season 2 does rank in the upper half, just below What If season 1 and above Falcon and Winter Soldier. But there was just something that didn't quite capture the same magic for me that the first season did. And I don't know if that's that more of the episodes felt more interconnected, so you could really start to see this picture that they're weaving throughout season 2 a lot sooner. Maybe it was the surprise of Ultron breaking through the barrier in the
Yeah,
first season.
that's a pretty cool moment in season 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I guess spoilers for season 1.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a
It doesn't matter.
deal.
But yeah, like there was more that surprised me, and there was more. I guess that there was more shock in season 1 too. They were a little more liberal with their deaths
Yeah.
that they allowed to have happen, and I think that the exploration that they did in the stories of season 1 really really took advantage of the multiverse saga that we're in. That I wish the overall Marvel stories that are being told in movies and other TV shows took more advantage of. So
Yeah, I agree.
that's
That's
kind
fair.
of where I left
Yep, that's totally a fair criticism, 100%. Okay, let's move over to movies, because this is where things really get, I think, interesting. I've always wanted to say that. Yeah, stay tuned. Next week, we'll be back with all of our film picks. But in the meantime, make sure to follow us on Twitter at TowerBabbleCast, Facebook.com/TowerBabbleCast, and hit up the website, TowerBabble.ca, to find everything that we're doing. We will be back very soon with more TOB.